Right, I'm here to introduce our speaker. This is a topic that Jamiel finds himself presenting a lot because in his work he has a very peculiar typing setup. And so he'll be giving us a talk today about typing better and potentially faster with Python. He's allotted plenty of time for questions and answers at the end, and I'll be around with the hand mic so that we can all hear you. Jamiel, go right ahead.
Hello. So this is my first talk at any conference. If I normally speak very fast when I get nervous. So if I'm speaking so fast that it's uncomfortable, you just raise your hand. I will know it's not a question for now. It's just that I'm speaking very fast. There's follow-up code. And the slides are also on GitHub. And yeah. I work for Samba TV. They are not speaking through me in this talk. These are my views. And thanks to these great people. Brandon mentored me. Mike inspired me, and Charlie helped me with NumPy stuff. Dana lent me the charger to finish the talk, and Scott helped me beta test. I didn't put his last name, but that will be in the final version of the talk. Haha. So a bit of an intro. This mic is, I'm not sure if it's working correctly. So my name is Jamiel Almeida. I'm not a doctor, neither medical nor research. And I like my hands, they hurt sometimes, and I type a lot. I've been dealing with computers since 1990. And all evidence that I show in this talk is basically anecdotal evidence. There's been no research, no robust research material published about how Dvorak is better or faster or whatever. And whatever material is out there that I have seen was published by Dvorak himself, so it's kind of shady, but let's see what we can find. I'm here to talk about keyboards, specifically about keyboard layouts and how to type better, how to know one is better for typing and how to know it. And how do we know it's better? Well, tag along, that's the talk. This is my setup. You can read all the labels. No, that was a joke. So this is my keyboard. What makes it special, it looks like the Dvorak layout, at least on the alphanumeric keys. But these keys are swapped. So this one and this one are swapped. And if you check, all the symbols here, all these keys on the top row, are not numbers when you type them. They are the symbol. To get the number, you have to press Shift, and we will see why that works. So a long time ago, in a galaxy far away, I was interviewing at Facebook for a job, and I had a technical interview. And I also had a technical problem. I couldn't type. And Andrew was the one interviewing me. Hi, Andrew, if you're watching this. And I powered through. I made it, but I learned for the next interview, I brought my keyboard. So that works, I guess. So typewriters, that is how we get keyboards. They started with these hammer-like things that had to hit a specific spot on the page. So if you had to press the E, it had to hit the specific spot, and then the page moved to the right, and or to the left in this case. And then if you wanted to type a D after that, it would hit that exact same spot. So when you hit two keys at the same time or very fast, either both hammers would go and catch and not come back, or they would go like mount each other. So people had to spend a lot of time unjamming their machines or typing slower. And that's where Christopher Scholes came by in the 1870s. Yes, 1870s. So this is very old stuff. The main purpose was to reduce the jamming. So yeah, I don't know if you have noticed, but ASDF GHJKL semicolon apostrophe quote or single quote are not necessarily the most common letters in the English language or any language that I know. So why do we still use it today? I think it's because the same reason why we do a lot of other dumb stuff, inertia. So August Dvorak came by. Again, this is not new. This is like 1930s. This is like, my dad wasn't born at that point yet. So typewriters started to shift away from mechanisms that jammed, and this guy saw it, and he wanted pardon me. So he wanted a setup that could make the typists faster and reduce the finger travel. So he came up with something that looks like this. And his criteria was very, very easy. There were like 3 prime directives. First of all, if you're typing letters in very close succession, they should be typed with different hands. So that's why you see that all the vowels are in one side and the most used consonants are in the other. So you're doing what I think he referred to it as pedaling. So you're doing this. It's a lot faster tapping with 2 hands than only one. And then it's the same thing with fingers. You should be able to, if you're typing 2 letters that go in close succession, you should type them with different fingers. And not only with different fingers, but hopefully in a motion that goes from pinky to index, because that is more natural than the opposite. And just a little kind of like going a little bit forward in the talk, I'll show more numbers, but in QWERTY, you type most of your stuff in the upper row, and the other, then this one, and then the bottom row gets used the least. But Dvorak wanted to make everything be typed as much as possible in the home row, because after all, you're resting your fingers there. So there are other variants of the Dvorak layout. One of it is the programmer's Dvorak, which has, similar to mine, it has the symbols on the base layer rather than the shifted layer. There is the Colomac layout, which wants to show, like, to keep the Control Z, Control X, or Command, like undo, cut, copy, paste, keep them in the same space, but still have the benefits of having a better engineered keyboard. And there's the Norman layout, there's the Workman layout, there's the programmer's Workman layout. There's a bunch of stuff out there. So let's dive into the Python of it. First, I did a simulator. So I forgot to mention this. Sorry that I'm getting a little bit nervous, but I started typing with my layout 10 years ago. And at that point, I didn't have Python to my disposal. I had Perl. And I ran basically a simulator. What would happen if I typed all these with different layouts? So I had a bunch of papers from the university. I had code that I had written, which was C and Perl, and I ran my simulator through them, and I came up with a layout. And then I said, I will learn that layout because it's better. That's not normally how you do things, but that's my way of doing things. But the model that I use for the simulator is a simplified setup. First, your fingers are not staggered. If you look at a normal keyboard, if you look at this, for example, you will see that from the times of the typewriters, when these had rods going up, they couldn't go on the same point. But your fingers move pretty much on a line, so why not have these vertical? So this keyboard, which is the one I use, has a matrix layout. So your fingers move up and down and not to the sides, except for like the pinky and the index finger, which do have to move to other keys. So I'm using that layout. Also, the coordinates and the units are very arbitrary. Like, I just say my finger had to move 1 unit up, 1 unit left. I didn't measure centimeters, I didn't measure inches or whatever. You can call it affixels, like arbitrary finger pixels, whatever. So fingers also stay in the same letter that they touched last. No one types like this. Otherwise, you would have like alien fingers, I don't know. And also, nobody types a file from beginning to end without pressing the home button or the end button or copy-pasting a block of. I am not simulating those keys. I'm just simulating what would happen if someone typed the whole thing from beginning to end. And yeah, now I'm going to show what the simulator looks like. Or not the simulator, an IPython notebook with some of the code. I hope you in the back end see all this, or I can make it bigger. So here's just like a bunch of boilerplate code, but here is where I loaded QWERTY, the simplified Dvorak, the programmer's Dvorak, my Dvorak, which I call drunken Dvorak. I wasn't drunk when I came up with this. I don't know, I thought it was cute. And then there's Colomac, Workman, Programmer's Workman, and then Norman. I also forgot to mention why I did this. Like, why on earth would someone do this analysis? Someone already did it for you, right? Dvorak designed the keyboard to be better. The problem is, Dvorak didn't type Spanish, and I'm Dominican. And I also speak English and type English. So I type a mixture of English and Spanish. So I cannot, if I use a layout that's specific for Spanish, I'll be messing with my English. And if I do the opposite, so I had to come up with a layout that could help me do with my 2 natural languages that I use, and also with my computer languages that I write. So that's why I did this. And these are all the, they're not all of them, but they're some of the popular alternatives to QWERTY that people rave about. So I wanted to know also, what was this, what's so great about these? So I'm retracing my journey that I went through 10 years ago. What would happen if I was to do that journey today? Instead of like having a janky Perl script that took like 45 minutes to run the whole thing, what would happen if I did this in Python and had pretty graphs? So what I do is I go through all the files in a directory, I read them to memory, and for each typist simulation, I send them to type the file, and after that, I add them to an array. We're not caring about anything that's ASCII, so yeah. And then I create a counter and return the total characters, the counter, and these typists will have had a side effect. They will have updated their internal state. And so I ran this on YAP, which is Google code, for yet another Python formatter. And it took 5 seconds to run. It says 5 milliseconds here, but microseconds, but that's a lie. And so then I do some pandas work here. I create a series with the counter and say what the name of the column is. Then I calculate the percentage, taking the counter and the total number of characters, multiply that by 100, so calculate the percentage, and then select all the characters that were used more than like at least 1% of the time. Put labels, and voila, you have a distribution of the characters used. Note, these two don't have a label because this is the enter key and this is the space key. I have to fix those labels. And then you see that in accordance with the English language, the most commonly used key is E. Second, and by like just second, but by a lot of, with a lot of margin, is T, and then you have N. If you look at the keyboard, the QWERTY keyboard, none of those are in the home row. Why, why do I need to move my hand to type the most used letter in the English language? Anyways, so after that, I take all the typists, iterate through them, get all the keystrokes that they did. I have the pedaling coefficient, the NSF coefficient, which is my name for not the same finger coefficient. Then the row counters, how often they use their fingers, and the total distance that their fingers travel. And the result is this horrible table, but we don't want to look at that. We want paragraphs. So we take the layouts, we take all the keystrokes, calculate each keystroke percentage, and we see that everyone typed the same number of keystrokes, except for the guys that had the symbols on the base layer. This, and this had the symbols on the base layer. So they actually had to type shift to type the numbers, but you see that it saved 2% of all the keystrokes. So significant, I mean, small, but measurable. Then we have the usage of the home row. Again, these are awesome, 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 awesome poop. This is 40%. This is 60. So for 60% of all the keystrokes that these guys had, they didn't even have to move their hand from the home row. They already had their fingers there. These are the other rows. We know that the number row all the way to the top is the most uncomfortable one to reach. And then the second one, which I call the top row, it's not underneath the number row, but I call it top, and then there's bottom. Top is easier than bottom, and that is easier than number. And we see here that the more you use the bottom, the crappier you are. So we see, like, these are not so great, but we see that the blue one, which is top, is used less and less, but these are also using the home row more. So that's why these bars are lower. Now we have the fingers. How often do you use your fingers? Fingers have a varying amount of strength to them. We saw that the space and the enter were the by far two of the most used keys. And in my keyboard, that's the right thumb. That's basically the strongest finger there is. And here we see the pinky's kind of like going crazy. That's the blue. But that's because pinkies need to type shift. When you're typing a capital letter with the other hand, you have to press shift. So what I do, I'm glad Lars had his setup here. I have one of these, and I have shift on my foot. So I'm actually saving my pinkies. I love my hands. And then the ring finger is the green here. You see it's kind of like, I don't want to do anything, but that's like your finger is different from the others. That finger gets very tired, and it doesn't, like, you cannot move it like independently as easily as you can the middle finger and your index. So that kind of makes sense, and everyone kind of uses it okay. There's a lot of noise in that graph. Same for the right hand, although it's a lot smoother in this side. And if you see, these look pretty much like you would expect everywhere except for QWERTY. Like, this is my index finger, then the middle finger, and then the ring finger and the pinky. It's still a lot of noise, so that doesn't give us a lot of information. Where I do get a lot of information is in this. F11. Oh, yeah, sorry. The view full screen. I'm sorry about that. It still doesn't go away. Well, it's a little bit better. So here, if we take a benchmark of what QWERTY is and the distance traveled by each finger, you see that this is better, and this is, I actually sorted it. So hooray, technology. Where is it? Here, sort by distance gain. Who's the best? So there's, like, I already saved 2% of the keystrokes, and in the distance, I'm saving almost 14% of all the distance traveled by my fingers. So that's significant. I don't know about you, but 14, if I got a raise of 14%, I'd be jumping. And then there's the pedaling coefficient and the not the same finger coefficient. Those are not so awesome on my layout, again, because mine is more geared towards other needs, but still it's pretty good. Like, I think it's the best pedaling coefficient, and not the best, not the same finger coefficient, but still pretty high up there. And engineering. So, okay. So back to my slides. I remapped my brain. It happened one morning. I went to do my 55th hour of training for my keyboard, and I started doing it, and it's like, okay, this is easy. And then I went to write a paper for school. I was writing a lot, and my brain was like, dude, don't use that loser's layout. Use the comfortable stuff. And at that point, it's like, okay, I'll use it. It's better, and I'm ready. But sometimes it comes back to haunt you, because you think you're typing on one layout, and you're not. That actually says what this says. It's hilarious when you type like this in a chat. Like, oh yeah, I'm totally typing on my keyboard. Nope. Does it matter? I don't know. There's been no studies. I'm just an engineer that was curious, and it's a very interesting conversation piece. Like, every time a coworker tries to use my computer, or I try to use theirs, like, I don't know hands, they know. So yeah, I talk about it a lot. That's why I'm giving the talk. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it helps with my RSI and carpal tunnel, but I think it's better. I would think that like shorter distance, saving keystrokes would be better for my hands, so that's why I use it. And some notes. In doing this, I notice that gaming sucks. If you're not like WASD, like the thing, I'll scroll back so that you can see how horrible it is in Dvorak. And games don't really work that well. Some games you can't even remap comfortably. If you want to suck less, you should get rid of caps lock. I use it a lot, but you should not. And calculating the distance for each finger travel is trivially easy with NumPy. I'll show you that. Like I saved time for that. And collections.counter, which would be the thing you would use to count stuff, is not really that fast. So I ended up using an old array and just incrementing indexes in there and then combining those and creating the counter, because if I was to feed the file to the counter, I would use 100% of my time in there. When I ran the profiler, all the time was taken up by that, and everything else was doing like basically was nothing. Let me show you how horrible it is. So, yeah, don't try to like this is moving forward. This is moving to the side. This is another thing. Oh, who here uses VI? I use VI too. I'm super lucky that J and K are right next to each other, and H and L are still like, this is left and this is right, but still this is kind of weird sometimes. And final remarks. I got rid of my RSI and carpal tunnel. I'm better, my wrist is better, but that's because I use a better keyboard. It's not because of my layout. That's the last thing you should focus on. You should use better posture, a better keyboard, taking rests, exercising, being smart, like none of the things that we doing. And yeah, so that's it. And now Comic Sans, questions? Yes.
How do you do as far as being able to switch back to QWERTY when you have to?
Let's repeat the question.
So the question is, how do I deal with going back to QWERTY when I have to? Have you ever seen a very new person to typing that they use these two fingers and their eyes a lot? Like that. That's what 10 years of typing with your own layout will do. And also, with my keyboard, this is an awesome piece of equipment. This is like $300 keyboard, and like you can see all those dollars working for you. Like you can remap the keys, and it will hold it in the firmware, and that is how I was able to bring this keyboard to a technical interview and program without losing my mind. So yeah, I don't really deal with that. I escape the situation a lot.
I just wanted to say that he asked, how do you switch back to QWERTY if you need to?
Yeah.
I know that on my Windows computer, I just either Shift Control or Control Shift, and it easily switches between the two.
Oh yeah.
I have had lots of trouble with that though.
Yeah. So yeah, I forgot to add a slide for that. Haha. But I will tell you this. So you don't actually need a Dvorak keyboard to type Dvorak. Like you can remap in software, and there are normally keyboard shortcuts to do that. Does like, okay, Shift and Control, it will switch one, and then Shift and Control will switch again. For Mac is different, but they all have a way to switch the soft layout. And normally you can see it in the status bar as well. Like you're typing in not an awesome layout. Yep.
Oh.
I have the mic. Ha ha ha. What's your fastest words per minute? Or can I challenge you to a contest?
So I'm actually, you'd be amazed. Like I think I type faster, but I haven't measured myself. I did it mostly because I thought, I still think that QWERTY is dumb. Like it's like the tailbone for humans. Like we don't have a tail anymore, but the bone is still there and does nothing. QWERTY is like that. It's just holding people back and making them like travel miles with their fingers. But for me, I think I type around like probably 70 to 80. It's not like fast at all, but I know I travel, like I get there at the same time because I travel less distance, haha.
So you'll take her up on the contest then.
No, no.
So I'm curious, I use programmer Dvorak, which is really, really similar to the one that you made up, it looks like. I'm just wondering, like, what it was that made you decide to remap the keys that you did, because it's so similar.
So yeah, my layout and the Dvorak layout are very similar. I'll put the slide here on the programmer's Dvorak. So the key differences for me is that I have this key, which is the, it's not showing here, but this is the quotation mark, single quotes and double quotes, and the colon and semicolon keys, they are swapped. And then the parentheses and stuff, like these symbols are, like they don't really make sense to me why the curly braces are right next to each other, and also the frequency that I use it, and the fact that my fingers rest in a position where it didn't map to the same symbol. And I don't know how you program, but I normally type one parentheses and then type immediately the other one and go back. So since those are things that go in very fast succession, I want to have them in different hands. So I spread them differently than the guy that made this. But if you see the benchmarks, they are pretty similar. Also, these symbols are different. I used to type Perl a lot, so you can, and I still use regular expressions a lot. So for me, the caret is on a key on its own, and the dollar symbol are both on the same on the base layer, because I use VI. So I type one and I go to the beginning of the line. So ideally, you wouldn't pass a bunch of files through the simulator. You would actually keylog yourself. I don't know what the security implications of that would be. You would keylog yourself and see what you really type on your editor, because you're also typing other stuff that's not really the like from beginning to end source file. But yeah, that's it. That's why I use the layout differently. I had seen this before, and I ran my analyzer actually like with this first to see how it would help me. I ran initially I ran it QWERTY and Dvorak for my English and Spanish mix of files, and I saw that Dvorak helped a lot, and it was not perfect for Spanish, but it was like pretty high up there. And then I started checking what the symbols are. You remember that histogram, the first thing that I showed you, the symbols that I type the most are not necessarily on the base layer for this layout. So that's what those are my 2 cents. Also, the code for this is horrible, but it's on GitHub. So you can take a look at that and run your files through it or another repo, and you can make your own layout. If you want to use Windows, there's Microsoft Keyboard Layout Creator. On Mac, there's a free tool that's called Ukulele, like the tiny guitar. And there is Xmodmap, which is basically a plain text file on Linux. So you can create your own layouts very, very easily. And it only took me 54 hours. And like, I'm not a genius. This is just like muscle memory. And you're training something that is easier than what you already do. So I would actually recommend everyone to go ahead and create their own layouts.
Perhaps instead of a keylogger, you could use a TypeScript file. Since TypeScript, the command, you can actually capture all the terminal interactions that you're doing.
Yep.
You'll have to filter out anti-sequences, but that might be an interesting way to get data, what you're doing in a terminal.
Yeah, there's another question.
What models and makes of keyboards have you used over the years?
So I was using for the longest time, I used and broke a lot of Microsoft Microsoft Ergo blah blah 4000. That was built like a tank, but like I always ended up dripping something over it and breaking it. And then when I started working at a previous company, they sent an ergonomics expert to do an assessment of my work environment. And I told her I had carpal tunnel syndrome and RSI on my right wrist. I used to need to wear that brace that I showed in the picture every single day, even to type. I could take it off, but it would start hurting a lot. And then after like 6 to 9 months using the keyboard that I showed you, they are not paying me, but it's like it worked. It just like I only needed to wear the brace to sleep, and now I don't even wear it. One of the things is I have broad shoulders, and when you're typing, I'm very nearsighted also, so I tend to have my keyboard and screen very close. And having the keys like straight, have my wrist in this position. The keyboard spreads them apart. And that's why a split keyboard is better, and a matrix layout keyboard that's also split is better than that. And other than that, I use the ones that come with the laptop, because it's like lugging a huge keyboard is also very difficult sometimes. But that is why, I can brag about this. This was not really only a joke. Like I actually made this it's an open source keyboard that you can order it as a kit online, and then you solder it. You can be all geeky about it. And the cool thing about this is that I'm writing the software, the firmware for it. So I can like have my own layout, physical, and take it anywhere I want, because this is a mouse for scale. Like this is super pocketable. Well, not pocketable, but in the backpack. And yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, so I apologize if I already said this, but I was just curious as far as what caused you to explore this in the first place.
Yeah, so the reason why I mentioned RSI is because I was actually, I started developing RSI, and I was reading about better keyboards, better ergonomics positions, better everything. And as a tangent, I saw this, it's like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I got like really into the whole, yes, I want to do something that makes sense, because I didn't know that there existed such things. And I did. So it was kind of like a happy coincidence, I guess.
So with Vim, it's kind of optimized for QWERTY, right? You have HJKL on the home row, DD, all that stuff. Is it better to, if I wanted to switch to programmer Dvorak, would it be better to try to remap keys in Vim to kind of accommodate that, or would it be better to just accept that HJKL is all over my keyboard?
So the thing is, when I showed you that HJKL were all over the keyboard, H is left, and it's on your index finger. You don't have to move. And L is your pinky up, and it's still right. So it's still in the same position, and it splits J and K to a different hand. So it's not horrible. And I live with the mnemonics of like I want to yank the inner paragraph. I don't remap the I and the P. It's like I just do YIP and that's it. It's just muscle memory at this point because even though I had 5 years of using Vim before I switched layouts, I now it's just natural. So I would say leave it as it is because you will have a lot more problems. Like same with the games. Like I switch my keyboard to QWERTY and cannot chat for the life of me in games, but I can play at least.
Yeah, you said no shift lock. What do you got it mapped to control?
Oh, caps lock. Yeah. So I'm actually very glad that you asked that because now I get to brag more. So for me, this is control. So a lot of people that use Vim use this as ESC. For me, this is an ESC, an escape key, purely for convenience because reaching up there is horrible. But I also have three keys on my foot. So also I have shift and I have I think ESC there, and I change it every once in a while. Then these two are swapped. Like this is what the Win key and this is Alt. And this is actually Alt-Ger also. Like one of the things that I do on my layout is that if you press this key and the N is the ñ in Spanish and all the accented letters. So yeah.
For me, I made that control too, but then like Steve Losh did this article on giving you more use of like modifier keys. So like you can help, like control is with another key.
Yeah.
But you can like use it as its own key. So if you don't make anything with it, I mapped it to Control W.
Huh.
So it gives me, in insert mode, it just gets rid of the word I last typed, so retype the word rather than backspace through it to do that. Plus
For me,
plus it gives you all your window.
yeah, for
stuff.
me, the thing with that is that I've read the bits about doing that and using the tab key, not the tab key. It's the same control on different programs to if you tap it and you take a lag a little bit and you don't type another key with it and release it, it does something. But for me, I don't like the lag. So I just prefer to move my middle finger down and do the W and be in control. One of the things that also comes up, I don't like machines making decisions for me. So I like to make my own decisions. Yes, if I press a key, I want it to be that key always.
There isn't a lag with that particular, I know the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just on key up.
Yeah.
You get a W unless I press another key.
Any more questions? Oh, I forgot. I was going to show you something. So look how easy it is to type asterisks when you don't have to press shift. So this is the simulator. And here is where I calculate the distance traveled by the fingers. Euclidean distance is basically change in x squared plus change in y squared, and then you square root the whole thing. Here I am storing one vector with all the x values, and a vector with all the y values. And NumPy has this neat little thing that you do num.diff. It takes that and returns the difference between two adjacent pairs. So it returns one less element, but it tells you the difference from one to another. I do that for x, I do that for y, and then I square that, and then I have delta x squared for all the x, delta y squared for all the y's, and then I do add those two vectors, and then square root the whole thing as a vector operation as well, and then a sum, and you have all the finger travel. This is like super easy, and it's like, what, 5 lines of code, and 2 of the lines are closing parentheses? Yeah, this is why Charlie is in the thanks, because I was doing this manually, and there's a function for that. Yeah. I don't know if you want to look at any more of the code. There's the repo. It's on the bottom of each of the slides. It's /foo ku key. See what I did there? Haha. Yeah, so that's it. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much.